Welcome to the Property Couch, where each week you get to listen to two of Australia's leading property experts. Bryce Holdaway, co-host of Location Australia on Foxtel's Lifestyle Channel, and Ben Kingsley, Chair of Property Investment Professionals of Australia, and the 2014 and 2015 Property Investment Advisor of the Year.
All right, folks, you're on the Property Couch, where each week Ben and I bring you the insider's guide to property investing. Hello, mate.
G'day, mate. How are you?
Good. How's Easter?
Well rested.
Well rested.
Yeah, had a bit of fish up there on the Murray.
Did you?
Caught a few. Yeah, got a trout cod on the Murray and also a couple of yellow belly.
Did you teach the boys how to fish?
No, they're a bit young.
Yeah.
The hooks are a bit
I thought
sharp.
Harry would have been right into it.
Oh, he would have right into Jack's ear with a hook. So
that's a future teenage piercing right there.
Exactly. So no, very good. Didn't think about work much. Didn't think about housing affordability much. Negative gearing much. So that makes life a little bit easier for me.
How good is it? Our guest today will relate to how good it is to have a 4-day weekend in the middle of the year. But we'll talk about that shortly. But a quick one for you.
Yes.
Dockers v Pies. I mean, the last few weeks you've just been itching, like our listeners are saying, don't talk about footy, but you're right into it.
Oh, I'm still into it.
You happy to talk about
Totally. Totally, mate. I'm side by side. So, I'm part of the solution, not the problem.
Mate, we know what the problem is there, but you let go of a premiership coach. But anyway.
Oh, turn it up.
Of course, Dockers had a good win. You saw that, did you?
No, I didn't see it, but I saw the result. So good for them.
All right.
But up and about in.
I was going to spend a fair bit of time.
April.
I was going to spend a fair bit of time talking about that. But we've got a Geelong supporter in the house.
Oh, we do.
And we've got a business full of Hawthorn supporters here. So I reckon we spend more time on hooking into the Hawthorn supporters, and we'll get to that in a minute. Quick one, Mindset Minute. Ben, I just want to suggest to our listeners 3 simple words that'll help them with their mindset. Up until now.
Up until
now. So instead of saying, I can't do this, you say, up until now, I haven't been able to do this. Because what it does is it leaves room, and it also gives you the possibility for change. So think about this.
Full.
Up until now, I haven't had a great diet. Threw that one in for you.
Thank you.
Just threw that one in for you.
Still love me steak and chips.
Up until now, I haven't had the greatest relationship with my children. Hey, I've stumbled across a...
Is that one to you?
Probably back at me. So Kevin Lehman, Leman, have a new Kid by Friday podcast. Check it out, it's brilliant.
Oh, okay.
Up until now, I haven't been great with money, and therefore I haven't had the confidence to invest. So up until now, Ben, it gives you that room, it gives you that flexibility. But if you say I can't do this, it sort of keeps you just locked into a mind frame. So that's my invitation to our listeners, because remember that Zig Ziglar classic. Failure is an event, not a person. So if we can expand our mind with those 3 simple words, it's great. Hey, we have got Tim Heavyside here today, Ben.
We do.
We've known Tim for some time.
We have. We've been doing a bit of work with Tim over the journey, haven't we?
He's got the victory dance for 2 reasons. He's one of Australia's elite real estate agents, and he's just had a 4-day weekend, which is very, very rare.
And the cats are on top.
And the Geelong cats are on top. Welcome to the couch, Tim.
Thanks so much, boys. Appreciate being here.
It's good to have you. Watched yesterday, or were you on the way back from Hobart?
No. We flew in from Hobart, dumped the stuff, all the luggage at home, and then jumped back on a train and got the 2 kids, and we went and saw the Geelong Hawks match. And I'm a very happy cat supporter to be there at the game.
It was always in the bag. You guys, old mate over here tipped Hawthorn, and then this morning had a bit of a justification story around it. But just gave one away.
Yeah. Well, but if they had got up, everyone would have said, "Oh yeah, it was always up and about." But anyway, you guys tidied them up, so I didn't see any of the footage, but.
It's early days in the season, only 4 down. Don't get too excited, but we're on top of the ladder.
Yeah.
We're pretty happy.
You're pretty used to being up in the mix.
I was saying that to you the other day. I can't remember that when Geelong haven't been in the 8. Like they were in grand finals in the 90s, they were in grand finals in the noughties. Now they're looking like they're going to stick. That, mate, that's just unfair. Hey, I'll introduce you properly. Outside of having a 4-day weekend and a Geelong supporter, you're consistently recognised as one of Australia's most elite and decorated salespeople. You're the owner and director of Fletchers Real Estate, which is a very successful brand and franchise out in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne.
Very successful.
You're a sought-after auctioneer with a manner that entertains the crowd. Mate, that's a big rap. I got that from your website.
Good buyer.
He's one more.
As a husband and a father of 2 children, Tim understands the decisions with buying and selling a home, and to relax, he enjoys golf, gym, travelling, clearly to Hobart, and watching his beloved cats. And I was going to rattle off all of these awards, Ben, but our podcast only goes for 30 minutes. Australian Agent of the Year,
the
Victorian
biggest
Agent
one,
of the Year.
The REIA one, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
And the Victorian ones are huge.
Have a look.
You know, the Rate My Agents are active as well. So it's just, mate, you're just quality.
We're
quality
in a bit
through
of,
and
we're in
through.
a bit of listing royalty here. So.
Hardly, boys. It's the amount of people you help rather than the awards and
Oh,
accolades.
love it.
Well,
There it
you are
is.
welcome
That's why
on
we
this
get him on.
podcast.
That's why we're a big fan of Tim's, because he's all about people.
That's true.
He's all about people,
That's
helping
actually very
people.
true. Hey, we had Glenn Cortino on the other week. I saw on Instagram you guys caught up with the footy. Was that...
Yeah, I'll catch up with Glenn a few times actually recently. So other than football, which was a good time and a good event, but spoke at a conference recently together.
Yeah.
He's always a character and he's always very lippy.
that is very true. Any plans to go into the florist business? Like
No desires there. But I think Glenn, I'll leave that to Glenn.
Speaking of industries to be in, tell us the backstory. You know, where were you before you stepped into real estate?
So I'm 45 years of age. I've been in real estate 15 years. So I started when I was 30. Prior to that, I was a travel agent for 10 years. So
hence the travel.
Yeah.
So who are you working with, Tim?
Ansett Travel Service, Travel and Direct, which is all owned by Ansett, a subsidiary. And so when Ansett went down, I gravitated into real estate.
We may have crossed paths. I was a sales manager of Hamilton Island and Ayers Rock Resorts for many years.
Oh, mate, we definitely would have.
We would have crossed paths.
Yeah.
How's that?
It was about 6 beers in, boys. So
John Farnham at the Travel and Conference in Sydney, were you at that one?
No, I wasn't there.
Oh, okay.
No.
Right, yeah. They went out, no expense spared. They got John Farnham for their final
Whispering
gig.
Jack.
Whispering Jack himself. Anyway,
his third final tour or his second final tour?
Yeah.
No, this was when he was up and about. This is your divorce time.
Okay.
So, 30 years of age, you have this fork in the road. How did that fork lead to real estate from travel?
Well, a quick story. In the travel days, we had this guy called Ranko who was a sales rep for Club Med. And he came in one day and he said, I'm leaving the travel industry, I'm getting into real estate. And I said, why? He said, I hear they pay $100,000 a year. I said, what? It's a travel agents. They don't get anywhere near that.
No.
So I thought the money's going to be significantly better and there's a ceiling or a cap that you can get in the travel industry. So I guess the money was an initial draw card. And the industry is not too dissimilar between travel and real estate because it's still about helping people and solutions in terms of what they're after.
Has that been the mantra from day one for you in terms of helping people? Because let's be honest, there are a lot of real estate agents initially inspired to get in because of the material side of things. But you've been consistent about wanting to help people. Has that been from the beginning?
Yeah, I've got 3 things, and it's being professional with people, showing kindness, and in a respectful manner. What's
the foundation in that? Is that, I mean, you can apply that to life, but not everyone does that. So was there a mentor? Was there somebody planted that seed? Is that something innate in you?
No, that's me. I think there's certain things that you're born with. I mean, I've got 2 kids. I've got a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old, and anyone that's got 2 or more children will understand and relate to this. They're all very different, and a lot of it, they're hardwired. So you're born with it. And so
that nurture or nature thing, just randomly comes up. You just get 2 different beasts, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the youngest of 3 boys.
Yeah.
My 2 oldest siblings are very different to me, but some ways you look at situations can be very different to other people. So, and other things, you listen to podcasts I'm listening to at the moment with Kieran Ray. He's talking about at the moment structure and discipline. You know, that's what you need to be having in terms of willpower and fitness and anything that you apply in your life. You need a bit of structure and discipline.
I agree. 10 push-ups a day, Ben.
10 push-ups. Well, he tries to do 10 push-ups a day.
I have.
Just doing 10 push-ups.
Kerwin Ray. I apologise.
Kerwin Ray.
I apologise.
That's all right, Kerwin. He mightn't listen. He might be one of those
Still
American
terrible.
guys who might be a little bit busier than us.
Hey, it's not often we get someone of this capability on the couch, Ben, who's had that mantra, but also the success that Tim does. So can you give our listeners an insight into what the day looks like for a real estate agent? Because it's not clocking on Monday, clocking off Friday and having a good weekend. It's about actions and results. And a lot of people don't understand that, particularly from the buyer's side. So can you sort of give us a little peek under the bonnet as to what a day, a week, a month typically looks like for not only for a real estate agent, but someone at the top of their game?
Yeah, it's pretty frantic. Life's busy, so fitting it all in, and it's a big jigsaw puzzle and making all the pieces fit. So I tend to wake up in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, get to the gym, take the dog for a walk. That's nice just to sort of clear your mind and keep it open. And
do you listen to anything when you're going for a walk, or is it clear space?
Clear space, yeah. And I used to, when I would go for a run, listen to music. I've learnt not to do that, and just to have nothing, just neutral. And so you can just gather your own thoughts.
Chill out time.
You don't get a lot of time for yourself. So get into the office around 9ish, and there can be 2 9s in the day, 9 o'clock in the morning and 9 p.m. at night. I experience both generally. So structure for the week.
What does that mean? Once you're there at 9, typically you're carving deals all day, and that's quite often you're not leaving the office until 9, or are you just doing deals at home when you've left the office, or deal the above?
No, so I've got a lot of structure in my life. So Mondays is a sales meeting day and catch up. So you are making calls to buyers, connecting with vendors and providing feedback, overseeing writing reports. I'm quite blessed in that I've got a very good team that work around me. I'm one of 7 in a team, so I've got 6 assistants. I run the office at Canterbury. You're always prospecting on the phone, ringing up where your next meal is going to come from in terms of chasing a new listing, that type of thing.
Yep.
So as an agent, we tend to be focused on winning business, winning listings all the time.
So Tim, obviously for the listener base, most of our listeners are on the buyer side. But what are some of the things that they should look for in a great agent, in terms of to get the best result from the vendor's point of view? What does an agent bring to the table when they're coming in to have that initial consultation to try and win the listing?
I think the biggest skill set that separates agents is their ability to negotiate. And what that looks like. Whether or not you can look someone in the eye, you can pick a situation, know what to say, when to say it, how to say it, when to shut up. Those things are terribly important. So communicating with people and having that sixth sense in reading a situation and knowing when someone's listening to you and when they're not. I see agents and they just keep talking. They're not listening. Stop talking. So you've got to understand a bit of body language.
Yep.
I'm gearing this more towards how I'm thinking, how we relate to buyers and what we do with buyers. But buyers are often thinking inwardly, how can I buy this for the cheapest price? And for an agent, they're thinking for the vendor, how are we going to get for the best price?
Yeah.
And so there's a middle ground, by the way, and that's called market value.
Yep.
And so that's the journey.
Willing buyers, willing to pay.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the journey we discover all together, market value. So sometimes the market is above where the vendor's expectations are. Sometimes it's well below, and that creates perhaps an opportunity where it's a buyer's market.
Yep.
At the moment, it's completely a vendor's market.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. So as a trained negotiator, what are the rookie mistakes that you're looking for in a buyer?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, the buyer's usually transacting once every 7 to 10 years. You're transacting once every 7 to 10 days.
Yes.
So you've got an unfair advantage because you're practicing it more. What are the duffers that you see where you just go, I have got you exactly where I want you, based on what you see from what you just described then?
It's about seeing, in a campaign, and I say this to vendors, there's 4 things that are going to happen. Number 1, we're going to have interest on your property, and where I am in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne, 90-odd% of the business is auctioned. So we're going to have a 4-week auction campaign, and in that 4-week auction campaign, we're going to have 4 scenarios. The first scenario is that we have interest at a certain level, and then we're going to have a buyer that's going to be well above the pack. Number 1, it's my skill set recognising that buyer. The second scenario, we've got interest at a property which you can't read the interest, or they're at a similar level, so we go to auction. That's predominantly most of the cases. The third scenario is we've only got one buyer interested. There's no other interest other than one buyer, and either we go down a path of selling prior or tactfully passing negotiate with that buyer. Or the fourth scenario with the vendor anyway is that we've got no one interested. Now, if that is the case, then I won't just let that drag on. I will talk to the vendor, so they're going to hear from me, and we'll have structured meetings about that. But that's not happening a lot.
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment, because the market is absolutely going bananas.
Press hard 4 copies.
So in that first scenario where we've got interest in the property from a number of buyers, but we've got one above the pack, I'll be very direct with buyers and ask them whether or not they want to buy it, rather than are they interested. So I think if you ask a buyer, are you interested? It's a very dumb question. Inevitably, they'll say something like, I'm interested because Grandma's selling a property around the corner. I'm interested because I live in the street and I'm, considering what values are going in my area. I'm interested, but I can't buy it.
Yep.
Then a poor agent would go back to their vendor and say, look, we've got 3 or 4 buyers interested. Well, you might only have 1 or none, or you might have all 4, but I don't think you've really qualified that buyer. So asking direct questions such as, would you like to buy it? And some buyers are very direct with you. I'm a very direct person. I'll ask people if they want to buy it. They say yes. If they say no, I'll say, oh, is it the price or is it the property? It's the property. Oh, when you say that, how do you mean? Okay, well, it's 3 bedrooms and I'm really after 4 bedrooms. Okay, so if you were to buy it, how would you fix that? I'd probably, use a bunk bed in the 4th bedroom, in the 3rd bedroom to create 4. Oh, that's a great idea. Don't give up on it just yet.
Yeah.
Let's go back inside and have a look at that bedroom and
See if we can make it work.
And you're really creating a pathway for the buyer to create their own solution to re-engage on the property.
That's great.
Rather than just giving up on the property. Are you interested? No. Okay, well, on to the next punter. So just going into it, even if it's price. So would you like to buy it? And they say, no. Is it the property or the price? The price. So when you say that, how do you mean? Oh, well, I thought it was going to be more around 1.5 million and the interest is not there. It might be 1.5 is like a huge price. So just recognising that feedback.
So when you get that feedback, of those 4 types of buyers you're talking about, when you get that one that's just over the top, are you trying to close that out sooner rather than later, or do you think you can bring the other buyers up to that point?
Well, not to give away too many secrets here, but how I break a campaign, I tend to break it into 2. So we have a 4-week period. So the first 2 weeks is about finding out who wants to buy the property.
Yep.
The second half of the campaign is when I start to drill down onto price. So I really don't like to try and get too many offers too early.
Yep.
I'm really researching who wants to buy the property, because that's when the majority of the buyers are coming through. And the second half of the campaign is when we're going to find out more on those buyers who are interested, at what price point they're interested at. I might say to a buyer, if this is around, say, 1.5 million, would you still be in it? Then they would say something like, 1.5? Well, you know that they're not there. Okay, I'd back off on that. So I'd say something like, would you be around 1.3, 1.4? And 1.4 max, but I wouldn't be. Is that what the vendors want? 1.5? Is that what the buyers are saying? Oh no, I'm just talking, and I've got to back it.
And you're only quoting 800 plus.
No. Come on, plus. So no, but what I'm saying is,
it's great stuff.
Is that if a buyer would say, so if it was around 1.5, would you still be in it? And they said, oh yeah. And I've got all the other buyers that say 1.3, 1.4, then that might trigger, even I might extend that further. So if it got to 1.6 or 1.7, are you still okay? And they said, oh no, I wouldn't get to 1.7. 1.65, and everyone else is at 1.3, 1.4. Why are we going to auction? It's time to wrap that up.
Yeah.
And a good agents will pick that up, so they're ready to go.
I'm assuming there's a variation to that theme in a buyer's market as opposed to in a seller's market.
Yeah.
Fair to say, you're sort of tweaking that roughly as you're going through that process.
Do you remember a buyer's market?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, we've had them. And I've got to tell you, it made me a better agent. Because when I first started, it was still going up. And then it wasn't until 2008 when we had the GFC and prices started crashing. We lost 15% in that year, thereabouts, depending where you were.
Yeah.
And I wasn't seeing that. I wasn't ready. I was like, hang on a minute. But sharpen my skill set. Holistically, how to deal with those tricky situations where buyers are, they're like vampires. They'll smell blood and they go for it. When they see the market come off, boy.
Because the agents are never like that when it's a seller's market, are they? So offers before.
Yeah.
Again, it's hard for you to take I'm acting on the seller's side here, but if you're in the buyer's side, what week of the campaign would you suggest to a buyer to make an offer?
Either week 3 or 4.
Are they often successful in week 4?
If they are within that window of the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Make sure they can cool off,
Yeah. So the cooling off provision on that Wednesday. So it might get set up early in the week, as in you might be wanting to talk about making an offer. So it's week 4. okay, and it might be the Monday or Tuesday of that week, it's probably a good idea as a buyer to then talk to the agent about wanting to put in an offer. But if I put in a significant offer that's going to tempt the vendor and it's going to be too risky for them, then I'll be happy to put that in when you want to. Like I bought a property recently, and I'm in a settlement right at the moment as a buyer. And when I bought it, because there's exemptions on the cooling off period, so there's 5 or 6 exemptions. One is if you're a licensed estate agent, which I am. So with the agent that I bought it off, I put in my email, don't forget to tell your vendor I'm a licensed estate agent, there's no cooling off. So I wanted to make my offer as attractive as possible. Anyway, the agent rang me back and said, yeah, I forgot all about that. I said, well, make sure you tell your vendor, right? Because it's like I bought at auction.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing.
So there's a tip for the listeners there, Ben, because if you're wanting to put an offer in on the Monday or the Tuesday of the 4th week and you're wondering why the agent's stalling presenting, because they want you to tick over on the Wednesday, because 3 days either side of a publicly listed auction, you still have the auction conditions, which means you have no cooling off.
Yeah.
So an
That's
agent
in the
doesn't
Victorian market, but obviously in New South Wales there's a form, is it 66?
There's a 66W which waives the cooling off, and
Correct.
I'd have to, because I don't do a lot in New South Wales, but I have to check that. But ultimately just check that out, because definitely here in Victoria, the agent doesn't want to stuff up an auction campaign by putting in an offer that then cools off on a Friday, and then they've got egg on their face where the deal hasn't been done. So if they're wondering why, on the Monday or the Tuesday, they are hanging around to get that done on the Wednesday. There's a very good insight.
So you're kidding yourself in not putting an unconditional offer in pre-auction. Like if you're coming into that final stretch, if you've got some conditions on that, what do you think they're going to do?
Well, you can go unconditional but still get your cooling off. So I can go unconditional on the Monday and still cool off on the Friday, which just bakes the campaign. So
Well, we've just had Easter on the weekend, so we had Friday, which is a public holiday, Monday is a public holiday. So theoretically, if you put in an offer on the Tuesday last week, because it's that's right.
business days,
Unbelievable.
Business days.
So that's crazy
Three
to think that way. But from a buyer's perspective, some people go, oh no, I want that cooling off, right? Do you want to buy the property or you want to cool off?
Yes,
exactly. I say that to buyers. I mean, if you want to cool off now, tell me, because it's something I don't want to really go down this path.
But it's just a money-back guarantee, though, isn't it? Most people don't exercise the money-back guarantee, but it just gives them that little bit of confidence to tip over the line. So it probably works in your favour more than it doesn't.
How many people are going to get the property by doing that?
No.
I mean, the agent's not going to support the buyer.
No.
To the vendor, I'm a bit unsure about this one. He still keeps talking about, I've still got my cooling off. I'm just like, my recommendation to you is not to accept it. And then move on.
If you think about Adelaide has a 2 business day cooling off period without penalty. So you don't put any conditions in Adelaide. We just go, deal done, no problem. Because then we'll just get the solicitor to check it, we get the building inspector through it, and then by midnight the 2nd business day, if there's anything wrong with it, we call off, no penalty. Whereas in Victoria, New South Wales,
sounds like a better system.
Yeah, I mean the reason why Victoria and that introduced that is because everyone would just be putting offers in. Like you'd put 5 offers in on 5 different properties, and then work out which one you got. So if you timed it right, so you were locking up those other properties for sale. So hence it's 0.2 of 1%, isn't it, of the value of the property? 0.25. It's gone up recently, but so it's like if it's $600 or $700 or whatever it might be.
No, it's 0.2%.
Yeah, 0.2.
But at REIV level, we're trying to increase that. We want to get it actually higher.
Yeah.
We want it to be a real sting.
Yeah, at $1.5 million though, it's a reasonable cool-off fee. What's the number on that? It's probably a couple of $1,000.
Have to get the Samsung out there.
No, the Samsung won't be able to respond quick enough.
Oh, good. Now, whilst we're on talking about property mistakes and vendor mistakes and so, you're an auctioneer, so you're obviously out there. Your body language and reading your audience. I've always said it's just street theatre. That's all it is. Just understand it as such. What are some of the mistakes you see from some of the people trying to buy property at auction?
Every auction's different. So literally called close to 1,000 auctions in my career.
Yeah.
And I've never called the same auction. One thing I would say from a buyer's perspective, it's not about starting too high or too low or the increments. It's about the tempo and going straight back. I think that's the best technique. I've tried everything as a buyer agent as well, acting on behalf of family members, acting on behalf of clients. And I would tell you, the best technique I've ever found would be to bid pretty aggressively, be confident. I always say it's like bidding to the cliff face. Quite
Say
frankly,
that again, you bid to the cliff face?
You bid like you're running to a cliff face, and then you stop because you're not going to jump over the edge of the cliff. But people don't know where your cliff face is.
Yeah.
And then they think, oh, geez. So as an auctioneer, what I hear is he's not going to stop. So, let him have it. He wants it more. It puts other people off. That's a good strategy. So the other buyer might have more money than you, but you're just putting them off. So I think that's a pretty good strategy.
I think it's a great strategy. I've said it all along. The only thing that I've seen consistently work is confidence, and it's another play on what you just said. Yeah. And I've done a couple of things, but most often, whenever another buyer puts in a bid, within a millisecond of them getting their bid out, mine's straight back at them, hard and aggressive. So they never even have the satisfaction of being in front. And then every now and then I'll throw in, I'll just give you $1,000 on top of every bid that person gives you. You hate it, but ultimately I'm just sending a message that I'm here to buy. Yeah. And you're right, I have a cliff face. I will stop. There's a little tip if you're up against me at Auctioneer. I do have a limit. Yeah. I like that analogy. I haven't seen it explained that way before. You don't know where my cliff face is. But I'm running pretty hard at it.
And you're absolutely looking at your competitors, and if they're eyeballing each other, the inexperienced ones, you got them. You know that as soon as they start looking at each other, that was their stretch. They're very close. Yeah. The one who's just constantly aggressive and bullying, in a way. Professionally, of course. And in some cases, it runs to nothing. You run to the cliff and that's it. So that the whole street theatre's over, and you get back in your car and you missed it. But in other cases, you're not going to win it every time because it's a person with the deepest pockets, or potentially in some cases the silliest person there if they're just going to buy it at any price. It's crazy.
We've had that before. We've had that recently, especially with some of our international clientele that we get in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne. There's a lot of immigration coming into Australia, and I'm finding that around the areas where I sell, say Surrey Hills, Camberwell, Mont Albert, right through Box Hill, which is prolific at the minute, 50% of the people that are buying there are of Asian descent or from mainland China, and that's no problem, all good. But that can be terribly hard to read as an auctioneer. They hold their cards very closely to their chest, so it can be tough to bid against them as a buyer. But as an auctioneer, they can be pretty tough also to read. Sometimes they say, give up, which is easy. You know where they are there. Yeah. Sometimes they walk to their car, and I've got Chinese assistants. I'll get them to walk down to the car and get them back. Convince them back. So we've had all sorts of stories. But the thing is, if you're a buyer in this marketplace, you're going to be pretty unlikely that you're going to just be the only bidder.
So currently, it's, as you say, it's a vendor's market.
Yes.
You've got roughly, as a rule of number, Glenn was talking about having 7 or 8 buyers on every property at the moment. What would you say, for a good property in a good location, how many buyers have you got at the table at the moment?
Well, my all-time record at an auction is 10.
10.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
And I've had that a couple of times.
Yep.
So there's a few that I've had 7, 8, 9.
Yep.
I'd say somewhere between, say, 4 and 6.
Yep. And we're in an investment podcast here. I'm interested to know roughly what split do you think is owner-occupier versus investor at the moment for you?
70% would be owner-occupier, 30% would be investors.
Okay. Yeah, so that's consistent, which is good. I mean, obviously, I'm the chair of the Property Investment Professionals of Australia, and negative gearing and all of that's we're getting punched up in the media at the moment. Death by 1,000 cuts. So I'm just interested to sort of see what it is out in the field, as opposed to this anecdotal, sort of stuff we're getting from these university lecturers and so forth, running these macro numbers and coming up with conclusions that I don't.
Oh no, mums and dads are buying.
Yep.
Then a smaller sector, I'd say 30%, would be investors that are buying properties.
So you got 5 buyers there, and we're talking about 1.5, 2 of them basically being investors.
Yeah, investors.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
What about yourself, Tim? Property investor personally, is it a vehicle that you think is great for wealth creation?
Absolutely. My accountant, financial advisor, saying, look, you've got to get into some property as well as other things. So I've got some shares, but not much. Most of my money's tied up in the business. I've got a home as well that I've got a mortgage on and paying back like every other Australian. But my business is probably my biggest investment.
Yep.
And I don't own Fletchers. There's a number of directors that own different shares in the business. So I'm one of those owners. So it's not the whole ownership is with me, but that's taken up a lot of the mortgage there in the business. And then this investment property that we've just bought is, I guess, the start for us.
So why do you think, because I've asked a lot of real estate agents this question, and I think it harks back to one of the comments you made earlier about the fact that you've always worried about the next one that you've got to get, the next one
Next
you've
listing.
got to get. Because a lot of real estate agents earn a lot of money. Let's be honest. But they often think they've just had a breakout year and it's not going to be repeated next year. Is there anything in that you create a correlation between the fact that a lot of real estate agents got front row tickets to, in Ben and my view, the best asset class to invest in because of leverage? They've got these front row tickets, and quite often they just don't buy real estate as an investment. So is there anything in that from your perspective?
I completely agree with you. We're terrible investors, but a lot of it's time poor, and you can't buy your own properties. So if I praise your house, that's me cooked. And you list
Is that
a property.
legislation?
That's our company policy.
Okay.
But they're all Section 55 acts, which is good, because in the 1970s and stuff, there were some cowboy acts where agents were going in and telling some poor old grandma that, look, their home's worth 50,000, it's probably worth 100, and I'll give you 70.
Yeah.
And it's awful. So none of that happens now. So it's very regulated, which is a good thing. It's all positive. But the one thing I noticed when I was out looking to buy an investment property, and I really made it a focus of mine to buy one with my wife, is that if you got any form of success, you're probably pretty cooked on your Thursdays and Saturdays doing your own stuff. So when I went to sell my own home, you just can't get around to other agents open for inspections to see other properties.
I've got this. I can introduce you to a buyer's agent that I
But so that's one. Time poor is the thing. So when I went to sell my own home, I had to do my own auction on a Sunday.
Really? You auctioned your own home?
Well, I didn't auction my own home.
Yeah, yeah.
I was the vendor.
Yeah.
I had my best mate's Jeremy Desme. He did my auction and ran my campaign, and I was the nervous vendor inside.
Did you cut him on commission?
Yeah, I gave him a commission. Absolutely.
No, so did you cut him on commission?
No, I didn't cut.
Screw him down.
No.
That's bad.
But the thing I've noticed though, as going out there and wanting to buy a property, is a lot of it is just your time poor. It's terribly confusing. Yes, you do have front row seats, and I've got my finger right on the pulse in terms of prices and the market trends and what's happening at the moment. So that gives me a lot of confidence to buy a property. But it was pretty daunting buying that property, I'm telling you. Even though I'm in this business,
Yeah.
Still get that buyer's nervousness.
Absolutely.
Anyone can pay the trade.
Yeah. And the agent who bought it off, he did a terrific job. And he made me pay extra. Oh, yeah, I paid extra. I know. And I was saying, I had to justify to my wife, don't worry, it's okay, honey. And she's like, are you sure? Yeah, it'll be right. It'll be okay. And the fact is, over time, it will be okay.
Yeah. What's the best piece of property advice you've been given, and what's the worst piece of property advice you've been given?
Tim Fletcher said to me a long time ago, there is no 10 out of 10. We don't sell 10 out of 10. This is what we say to buyers. If it's 7 or 8 out of 10, buy it. If it's 3 or 4 out of 10, forget it. But if it's 7 or 8, you should buy. That's the best advice I've heard.
It's a good one.
Can I explore that a little bit further? Because I've got a comment here around outperform. Are there any types of properties that do better than others in your observation of being in the field? We talk about owner-occupier appeal, we talk about investment grade versus investment stock.
Yeah.
What are your observations out there? Is it the property that has that emotional connection that gets the best result, or
the one that offers scarcity, and you probably have to pay a bit more now, it will reap a better return in the future.
Yep.
So that's generally a family home or something with land. Because Mother Nature's not making any more land.
We're not making any more.
Okay. So the thing that probably to look at would be something with land.
Yep.
Because that generally outperforms a villa unit or a flat. Or anything that they're doing mass production, anything I'd probably stay away from it. Personally. Because they're terribly hard to sell as an agent.
Do you see character as scarcity as well, or because a lot of these Asian buyers, they don't fall in love with our Victorians and Edwardians as much as maybe the Anglo-Saxon buyer does? Or is that attitude changing a bit out there?
I'd say it's changing a little bit.
But
don't discount the Aussie. Wanting a character-filled home as well.
Oh yeah, they definitely do.
They'll go hard on those too. So it's probably a bit of balance. But buying a regular block that has perhaps a north-facing rear yard, maybe it's a corner, something that you can value add, you can put some money into it and do a town planning permit or build a new home on it. I'm finding they're the ones that are accelerating in my journey of 15 years of real estate, they're the
Yep.
ones that have accelerated faster.
Any change in Maid Road versus Beautiful Street? Or
Well, that comes down to the government. The government have brought in these new legislation, and the council have endorsed that with these general zoning, growth zoning, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if you were on, say, Whitehorse Road in Box Hill, and you're part of that, it got rezoned and got into that growth zone. I mean, Box Hill, people think, oh, geez, Box Hill's just skyrocketed recently. No, it's been skyrocketing for ages. But there was a whole growth zone before they even made it growth zone that I've been selling there for a long time.
Yep.
And if you got into that new zoning, mate, you were laughing. So you'd be out of the zone. It used to be $200,000 or $300,000. Now it's $1 million or $2,000. It's crazy to get into that new zoning.
And that's all about putting medium density along those busier roads.
Yeah.
So selling properties in a line, or just being able to put multiple dwellings on it. You're now in developer territory, so you can equity harvest that type of.
Well,
property.
It's bigger than that. Box Hill's turning into a little city.
Yeah.
And so will other hubs like your Glen Waverley's, Mount Waverley. They're forecast to do that as well. Then you've got other areas like Doncaster, which have got those huge skyscrapers, as well as with the apartments and things.
Yeah.
So I think it's the only way I can see the government's doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Give us a few highlights from the highlights reel, Tim. The best property deal you've done, the most expensive property that you've ever negotiated, the best property you've ever walked through. Give us some of those highlights.
Okay. I had this couple, they lived on Thompson's Road in Bulleen, and they were downsizing, and they had this 2-storey townhouse, modern townhouse, and one of 3 in the complex. It was the rear one, and Thompson's Road is a busy road, and they're downsizing to a single level home. They physically, they couldn't go up the stairs anymore, that type of thing. Anyway, so I listed it with a colleague, Jason Salan, from the Manningham office. He listed it while I was on annual leave, and I came back and he goes, look, we've got this listing, and now I'm off. He was on annual leave. We've got this buddy system. So it might have been 2011 when the market was correcting, was going down.
Yeah.
What happened, I was like, we've got no buyers on it. No one's coming through because it's Thompson's Road. People are discarding it. Stigma associated with it as a main road. I said, oh, okay. How many people come through? He says, 8. Anyone interested? No. Okay. Well, thanks for that. On your road.
Yeah, enjoy your holiday.
Enjoy your trip,
day.
Jace. Thanks so much.
On me.
Appreciate that. And then the vendor was like freaking out because they bought a property and they had to sell this thing. And so I was like, oh no. And I'm trying to build rapport with the vendor, and they're ringing me every day. I'm ringing them, and I've got no news, but you do the right thing.
Yes.
Anyway, so came to the week of the auction. They got no buyers, and I said, look, it doesn't sell at auction. We'll put a price on it, and we just be patient. We've got to wait for the right opportunity for a buyer. It doesn't look like it's going to sell on Saturday. Oh, we need to sell it. We've got a short settlement on the other one, and they were really freaking out. And the wife was crying, and I go, look, we're doing all we can. Is there any other buyers? We've gone to our other lists, and we've done everything we can. Anyway, I got this phone call from an Indian man from the Gold Coast, and he said, that one in Thompson's Road you've got, Tim, would the vendor sell before? And of course,
I'll go back to you.
Well,
an agent.
for the right price.
I said, for the right price, yeah, I think they would.
Rang you back in 2 minutes.
So I said, what's your situation? He said, look, I'm up in the Gold Coast at the moment. We want to buy a property. We're not mucking around. We'd like to come down this Saturday and buy one. But, I did mention to him, look, I think there might be other people. But so Wednesday night, I rang the Indian man back up and found out he was married and he was a double doctor. And what they did, they've just bought a practice around the corner from this property that I was selling on Saturday. So I got a little bit of extra information by asking good questions. And the doctor said, look, we'd like to fly down on the Friday, and if we could buy it, we'll buy it. And I said, excellent. So organise your flights, and I'll let our vendors know, and we'll arrange a private appointment. That was on the Wednesday night. Thursday morning, I rang him, and he said, it's very close to the auction now. We'll probably just come to the auction. We don't want to come on the Friday. There's another property on Saturday morning in Lower Templestowe, and if we bid on that one, we miss out on that one, then we'll come and buy your one in Bulleen. I thought, hang on a minute. So I don't want that to happen. No. Because there's no buyers. It was a buyer's market back then. Yeah. Anyway, so I rang the vendor and they're freaking out. Like, this is our buyer. I said, look, I've got a funny feeling. I reckon he's out. I rang the buyer back and I said, look, why don't you fly on the Friday? will make it well worth your while to see the property on the Friday. And they said, no, I've spoken to my wife. We don't want to muck around with accommodation and car hire, and we just want to go there, buy a property on the Saturday and fly back home. I said, no, that's fair enough. Let me have a chat with the vendors. And this is on the Thursday. So I rang the vendors and I said, look, this is the situation. I said, they can't. I said, but I've got an idea. Well, why don't you volunteer for the buyers to stay the night at your home on the Friday night? Stay with us. But they're strangers. I said, they're strangers to me. I just know them on the phone.
Yeah.
Okay, but if I can convince them to stay the night on the Friday night, they're going to feel pretty obliged. And let's face it, it's a nice home. The main bedroom downstairs, 2 upstairs. It's a cracking townhouse. I just struggle in getting anyone through. Do you reckon they'll go for it? Well, we don't mind. I said, all right, leave it with me. So I rang the buyer back. You never believe this, but the vendor was so kind, they've offered for you to spend the night with them on the Friday night.
Try before you buy.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Try before you buy, Ben. And they're the nicest people. The Indian man was going like, who said this? I said, the vendors have offered it. The vendors come up with this idea. So I gave the vendors all the credit.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, they sound lovely. I said, wait till you meet them. They're the nicest people in the world. So book your flight, right? Book it for the Friday. And there's no better way of seeing the property. And if you had reservations about being a main road or whatever, you're the back unit, you can't hear anything on Thompson's Road, but you're not going to know that until you actually spend the night here.
Yeah.
I said, oh, okay, well, I'll talk to my wife. We'll make you sure you book those flights because they're going to make you a meal and everything. So you better book it. Anyway, they rang me back. My wife couldn't believe it. We've changed our flights, right? We're coming on the Friday night. They got car hire. I met them there at the property. I had it all set up, perfect. The house was like glistening.
Candlelight.
And left them alone for about... they were in the house for about 3 minutes max.
Yeah.
Anyway, they came down and said, well, we don't want to wait. We want to make an offer tonight. So within about 3 or 4 minutes, I had them sitting on the table and documented a very good offer that the vendor was a wrap with.
Did you text the Lower Templestowe agent just to...
No.
No.
But I think that was a good story for the vendors. They were very relieved rather than just...
Well, there's a beautiful insight for all of our listeners, Ben, on
that's
how the mind of a real estate agent works, which is terrific. A couple of quick ones for you as we round it out. Who was your first mentor?
Probably in the travel days, I had this guy called Bill Benson. He was a bit of a mentor to me.
Mm-hmm. And life principles, business principles?
Well, I've had a few. I've currently got one now. I'd say Phil DeFagley is my personal coach, a mentor for me. So I bounce a lot of things off him. But then again, I've got great leadership at Fletchers. So I've got Rob Fletcher, Tim Fletcher definitely initially when I joined Fletchers, and Bradley Brown, Rob Fletcher, Jeremy Desmere. So those people.
Great. Fantastic.
And last one, what does success mean to you?
Success is holistic. So keeping your mind and positive energy. Success is, controlling your weight and keeping good relationships with your wife and keeping good relationships with your children and your family. And business-wise, success is being able to maintain the relationships you have with clients and keeping that momentum moving forward. So working on your brand, keeping your contacts there, ever thinking, if I'm going to sell, I'd like to get Tim Heavyside to come in and sell the home.
Well, Ben, as we said at the top, there's award after award after award here. So clearly, there's something that Tim's doing that other people are doing. He's very humble. He's very gracious.
Very
with
personable. I've always found Tim to be very personable.
Yeah.
I'm getting straight talk, and that's exactly how I want it to basically be. So I think from that point of view, that's why you're ahead of the pack, Tim.
Yeah. Well, it's been terrific to have you on, Tim. I think there's plenty of insights there for our listeners, Ben, that they can take away to learn the mind of an elite agent here in Melbourne, in one of the toughest parts of Melbourne, to be honest. The Leafy East.
Absolutely.
That's very tough. So my life hack today, Ben, is this. I did some research this morning with Ivis on Android because I didn't want to be sort of favouring Apple over Android.
Well, you do, so don't say you didn't want to. It's
so
blatant
I'm a blatant Apple fan. I'm happy to say that, and I offend people in certain ways on this podcast, so I'm probably offending the non-Apple people.
No, because the non-Apple people know.
But there is a life hack. Do you know on your Apple Ben you can get visual voicemail? You know what I mean by that? So instead of dialing 101 or whatever to get you can just have that visual voicemail. It says, Tim Heavyside's left me a message to say he's running 10 minutes late this morning, or Ben's rung me a message. If someone rings me up and they've left me a message, I can delegate that, Ben. So I can share that. So if I've got a voicemail that says, I'm coming over to fix your tap, I can text that, or email that particular message to my wife, who is going to be home during the day on that day, she can hear the message, which has got all the number, and actually action it. So it's not as if I have to write it down and then ring my wife and say, hey, can you do this? I can actually just forward the whole message to Andrea, or I could forward it to you, Ben, if it was something to do with you. You can listen to it in action. I've done it to Brad in the office here as well. So
is that a feature of the telco or a feature of the phone?
It's a feature of the phone, and then you have to ring the telco to get it in place. Okay. So you set up. But once you've got visual voicemail in place, you don't have to go through. They're all there, and there's a little share button. Ivis, I share it to you. Send you a text message. Yes. Can you please do this? And it's all done. But Ben, I just wanted to be fair. I went to Ivis. I said, "Do you have visual voicemail on your Android?" And she said, "What's that?" So, mate, I tried to include.
It might be on them. It might be
so
available on Android.
If we've got any Android listeners,
there we go.
You could write in on two fronts. One, to abuse me for being so pro Apple, and two, to let us know if it can be done. The second one, Ben, is this.
I've got two.
It's a life
jam-packed.
We have got community participation here, and I know you'll like this one because when I showed you, you laughed out loud.
Oh, yeah.
You laughed out loud.
Yeah.
This is from one of our very, very loyal listeners. My beautiful wife, Nicole, and I would like to share a life hack with our fellow Property Couch fans. If you go to Macca's and buy a Coke McSpider, in brackets, frozen Coke with ice cream in it, it costs you $2.
$2.
However, if you buy a normal frozen Coke, which is $1, and a soft serve cone, which is 50 cents, and dump the ice cream from the cone into the frozen Coke, you now have a McSpider for $1.50.
$1.50?
This equates to a 25% savings off a McSpider with a bonus free cone thrown in for good measure. And then how's the swag with the sign off? You are all very welcome. So there you have it, folks.
Either a comedian. Who was this guy? Who was it? Oh.
I knew you'd say that. I actually cut and pasted. And
you forgot to put that.
I will mention that.
We've got to give this guy a free book.
Yeah, we'll send him a book.
Oh my God, we've got to send him a book.
And we'll put it, Ivis. See, this is how good Ivis is.
Good.
It's Chris.
Thanks,
it's
Chris.
Because I did know it was Chris, but then under the pressure of the spotlight here, I actually was under pressure. So there you go, folks.
Chris is going to get a book. That's gold.
That's definitely going for a book. Anyone who sends us a life hack,
as good as that,
we're going to send them a book.
Humour. That's
and
brilliant.
He didn't mention, but it'd be remiss of us not to mention. You put the 50 cents into your offset account through your money smart, and it will make a difference. So there you go. Did you know, Ben?
Oh, did you know? All right, now we're talking money. I've got a double up here, so I'm going to break it down into 2 episodes so I get bang for buck. Because I could quite easily use 2 of them in one, but I'm just going to use one. So here are the world's top 30 financial centres. Okay, so because we talk about house prices being very, very expensive in the financial hubs around the world, well, today I'm going to share with you the top 30. All right, now this is based on the rankings from the Global Financial Centre Index provided by Z/Yen Group. Okay, so they do this index twice a year, and these are our biggest financial hubs globally. Who's number 1?
Perth.
Globally? Still want to go with that one? Right out to the back of the room, guys. To the back of the kit. Which one?
Monaco.
No.
Top financial centre.
Top financial centre in the world for transactionals.
Hong Kong.
London,
number 1. New York, number 2.
I was going to go New York, but then
Singapore, number 3. Hong Kong, number 4. Tokyo, number 5. San Francisco, number 6. Boston, 7. Chicago, 8. Zurich, 9. Washington, 10. Top 10, rounding out the top 10. Sydney, 11. Luxembourg, 12. Toronto in Canada, 13. Seoul, 14. Montreal, Canada, 15. Shanghai, China, 16. Osaka, Japan, 17, Dubai, 18, Frankfurt, 19, rounding out the top 20, Vancouver in Canada. 21, Taipei, 22, Shenzhen in China, 23, Geneva, 24, Melbourne.
I was waiting because Sydney was 11.
11, okay, 25, Los Angeles, 26, Beijing, 27, Munich, 28. Anyone? Very big metropolis, this one. Huge metropolis. Cayman Islands, Tax Haven, 29, Paris, and 30,
Hobart.
Casablanca.
Casablanca.
Now, next week, I'm going to actually read out the most expensive rental properties in each one of those
You
cities.
have been researching.
Hey, so there you go. It's
impressive.
Come to the table today, haven't I?
There you go. Number 11, Sydney. Number 24, Melbourne. And Perth didn't make it. So maybe the research is out of date.
That's why
But,
the property prices in Perth are a little bit flat.
but again, a terrific privilege to have Tim on the Property Couch. You're always welcome. Thanks for your time today,
Thanks,
mate.
boys. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. And Ben, until next week.
See you later.
See you later.